Alrighty, I'm going to try another version of the GoFetch vulnerability. Alright, so the GoFetch vulnerability is a vulnerability identified in Apple's M series. It's considered a side channel attack and is named GoFetch. Attackers can use this vulnerability to extract crypto keys during operations. This vulnerability exploits a feature in the processors called the DMP. DMP stands for Data Memory Dependent Prefetchers. The DMP is designed to improve the performance of the processor by predicting and preloading data that the computer might need next. This feature can be used to leak sensitive data. Alright, so what we're going to do now is I picked out a few words from some of the articles, and I'll just briefly define or describe them, and then I'll talk about the actual articles that I read. Alright, so we'll start with side channel. Side channel is an attack enabled by leakage of information from a physical crypto system. Characteristics that could be exploited in a side channel attack include timing, power consumption, electromagnetic and acoustic emissions. In this particular situation, the side channel helps with cache. Prefetcher. So prefetching is the loading of a resource before it's required to decrease the time waiting for that resource. So basically it's something that reaches out and grabs something to try to do it quicker to help with performance. Examples include instruction prefetching, where CPU caches data and instruction blocks before they're executed, or web browser requesting copies of web pages. Prefetching functions often make use of a cache, and that's part of this challenge. Alright, DMP, we talked about this just a little bit. It stands for Data Memory Dependent Prefetcher. And it's a prefetcher that takes into account the content of memory when deciding what to prefetch. Alright, do it. I think it's do it. So it's do it, or it's DOIT. Okay, and then this came from one of the articles. Although not relevant for the majority of code, data operand independent timing, which is do it, is a useful property for code which has specifically been written to execute in constant time, such as cryptographic algorithms. This mode allows constant time code to inform the processor that data operand independent timing is needed. Do it, or DOIT, requires disabling hardware optimizations. Okay, so this particular vulnerability, GoFetch, is in the hardware. So this particular property for code will help mitigate that. So DOIT requires disabling hardware optimizations and or performance features on some processors. For example, enabling data operand independent timing might disable data dependent prefetching. So now we're going back to what the article will tell you about. This means that DOIT mode may have a performance impact, and Intel expects the performance impact of this mode may be significantly higher on future processes. So this description is from an Intel site, and so they're specifically referencing their processors, but the Apple M chips, series chips, are can benefit from this mode. Alright, so here's some of the credits that from some of the articles that I read and the definitions. So we got some from Mashable, Ars Technica, GoFetch, Techopedia, Intel, NIST, and then prefetchers.info. Alright, so we're right back where we started. So let's go ahead and dive into the articles that we actually read. So I actually started this deep dive or rabbit hole from this article, and this article is from Mashable, and the title is Vulnerability Found in Apple Silicon M Series Chips and It Can't Be Patched. It says it can't be patched because it's a piece of hardware that this function operates on, but it can be mitigated. And if you go through this particular article, it defines prefetchers for you. It talks about what the attack is, and so the researchers called this the GoFetch, and they describe it as a micro-architectural side channel attack that can extract secret keys from constant time cryptographic implementations via the DMPs, which is the data memory dependent prefetchers. Talks about it being a side channel attack. And it tells you a side channel attack is a type of cyber attack that uses extra information that's left vulnerable due to the design of a computer protocol or algorithm. And then it also references an Ars Technica article. So I found that article, and this one is Ars Technica, and it talks about an unpatchable vulnerability in Apple chip leaks secret encryption keys. And then it's by Dan Gooden, and this is from March. And this one is actually a more in-depth article. It's actually really good. So if you want to read it, I definitely recommend reading all of these. And then it tells you who the researchers are from GoFetch, which is nice to acknowledge them and all their work. And then it talks about the M1, M2. It actually talks about the M3 if I remember, so let me find that. And I think it says that the M3 may not be as vulnerable. So the DMP on the M3, Apple's latest chip, has a special bit that developers can invoke to disable the feature. So that helps, and that's where the do it or DOIT or DOIT bit comes into play. And then the other part is the actual research from the team that discovered the GoFetch vulnerability. And so there's a site just for them, gofetch.fail. And it talks about it, love their logo, and talks about breaking constant time cryptographic implementations using data memory dependent prefetchers. So you can cite them. They got their tools on GitHub. You got the paper. So it gives a demo on key extraction on the M1, and it mentions everyone's name right here. And it also goes into different questions. So this is actually a pretty good article, and it also talks about when they notified Apple. And it'll be interesting if I keep reading, will I find anything about Apple? So the actual article is, let's see, the actual research paper is GoFetch breaking constant time cryptographic implementations using data memory dependent prefetchers. And so this one actually again is also a good article. It talks about the background, the introduction, their contributions, how prefetchers work, about architecture, the threat model, and the setup that they use to do this, and of course a lot of cool data. So if you're really interested in in data, this might actually be a good article to read. And then of course I just looked up a few of the definitions from various sites to make sure that there was some consistency in their meanings. And so went to Techopedia for prefetching, went to Intel for data operand independent timing instruction set architecture. This one is actually a really big deep dive. And then so I tried to learn a little bit about this. And so it's a pretty good article.